You know, growing old is a strange experience. People look at me and say that I've aged well with dignity. They say that my gaze is still firm, that my manner is still calm, serene. I thank them, smile politely, but only I know what. I see when I'm alone in front of the mirror. Sometimes I look and don't recognize the face that stares back at me. The wrinkles I carry aren't just from time. They are the scars of sleepless nights, of worries I hid so as not to worry anyone, of responsibilities I faced without complaining. They are the marks of a lifetime dedicated to protecting, supporting and loving. I've worked hard, fought for every achievement, and I'd do it all over again without a second thought. But now that the rush has passed, that life has calmed down, what weighs me down the most is not the body that no longer keeps up the pace it used to, nor the grey hair that came slowly and stayed for good. What weighs me down is the silence. It's the silence that takes over the house at dusk when before there were voices, laughter and hurried footsteps. It's the emptiness of the chairs around the table. It's the absence of sounds that I didn't even notice, but which are now missed. It's opening my eyes in the morning and no one calling, no one asking how I am. It's the absence of those for whom I lived every day of my life, my children, who were once small in my arms and who now live so far away, even though they are close. Growing old isn't easy, and the hardest part isn't the fatigue in the body. It's realizing that after having been everything to someone, you find yourself alone, trying to remember what it's like to live on your own. I've always been a simple man with few words and a lot of work. I raised 2 sons and a daughter alongside my wife, while we ran a modest little shop in the neighborhood market. Nothing came easy. Every penny had its value. I would wake up before the sun and only rest when the day was over, often with back pain and calluses on my hands, but with a calm heart, because I knew I was doing the right thing. I had no time for rest or luxury. If I stopped, there would be no money for the children's milk, school books or winter clothes. But I kept going, with faith, with courage, with the certainty that the effort was necessary. I remember nights when, after a full day's work, I would still fix the roof that insisted on leaking, or help with schoolwork, even though I was tired. I'd look at my sleeping children and think, one day they'll grow up, make their own way, and it'll all be worth it. And they have grown up. They graduated, got married, and are doing well, and I, as a father, was filled with pride, seeing that they no longer needed me like before. In a way, it was a sign that I had fulfilled my mission. But over time, I realized something I hadn't expected. The house became quieter, Sunday lunches became rare, and even phone calls became spaced out. Life that used to revolve around the sea, family now seemed to revolve only around me. And the silence. I came to regard the walls of the house as old companions, and the picture frames became the faces I saw most. I never complained about the work or the sacrifices. I'd do it all over, again. But sometimes I find myself wondering, after all that effort, was this the end that awaited me? Their home full of memories, and empty of presence. In the beginning, I made a point of visiting my children whenever I could. I would bring fruit, some bread that I liked to bake myself, sometimes a pot of that roast meat that they loved when they were little. I was happy just to see the grandchildren running around the house, touching everything, calling me grandpa with that enthusiasm that makes your heart warm. But over time I began to notice something different. One day I arrived by surprise at my eldest daughter's house. I brought some things from the market, wanting to help. She greeted me with a half-hearted smile and, at a moment when we were alone, she spoke carefully, almost apologetically. Dad, we're in a rush with the kids' work. Sometimes when you show up unannounced, we feel overwhelmed. At the time, I tried to pretend I understood. I shook my head, said it was fine, but inside it cut me like a knife. I just wanted to help. I just wanted to be there. I'd always thought that family was like that, a coming and going, a living together without an appointment. In my day, our parents arrived at any time, and we welcomed them with joy and respect. But there, at that moment, I realized that times had changed, and that perhaps I needed to change too. I realized that my presence, once expected, now needed warning, permission. And that hurt. I went home quietly, with empty bags in my hands and an even emptier heart. It was there that I realized for the first time that perhaps I was becoming someone who disrupts their routine, and when that happens, you start to wonder if you're still part of that life that was once your whole world. Even after that day, I kept trying, perhaps out of stubbornness, perhaps out of love, or perhaps because I didn't know how to stop. I called a few times, asking if they needed anything, if they wanted me to pick up their grandchildren from school, if I could stop by for a coffee. But the answers kept changing. They became short, hurried. "Dad, we can't make it today. We're rushing. Let's leave it for another day." And that another day never came. I could see the discomfort in their voices. I could see the silence after my missed calls. And yet I insisted. I just wanted a bit of what was once routine. I just wanted to be close. Then, one late afternoon, I called my youngest daughter. She picked up, but with that impatient voice you feel right away. "Dad, why are you calling so much? Has something happened?" I was silent for a moment, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. I answered calmly, "No, child. Nothing happened. I just wanted to talk." She said she was busy, and then hung up, and I stood there, staring at the phone, feeling that maybe I'd gone too far. It was at that moment that I understood. With a tightness in my chest, I was no longer part of their routine. I was an obligation, someone who called too much, who showed up too much, who asked for attention at a time when attention has become a rare commodity. And that hurt me more than any physical pain. Realizing that I had become a burden, even without wanting to, even without realizing it, was like carrying an invisible weight every day. Because being a father is also learning to accept that at some point our children will leave us behind, and nobody teaches you how to deal with that. After that day, I was different. I walked around the house like someone looking for something and not finding it. I would sit at the table with the food cooling on my plate and ask myself, at what point did life become so silent? The walls seemed colder, the clock made too much noise, and the telephone, it didn't ring anymore. "Yes," I cried. Even though I was a man, even though I'd been strong all my life, I cried. Not from anger or hurt. I cried of emptiness. I cried of nostalgia for the times when I was needed, when my hands were still needed. I felt I had lost my way. I thought to myself, is this what awaits me? Waiting for the days to go by alone, hoping for an invitation that doesn't come. But in one of those moments of silence, something inside me woke up. A low but firm voice. Enough. Now. Live for yourself. That's when I made a decision. I stopped calling. I stopped insisting. I put away the phone. I put away the unscheduled visits. I put away the desire to see someone who didn't want to be seen. And little by little, I began to find myself again. I went for a walk in the neighborhood park again, something I hadn't done for years. I started reading forgotten books on my bookshelf, listening to old songs that brought me peace. I accepted a friend's invitation to go fishing, something I had always enjoyed but had put aside in order to not be a nuisance. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a lightness that I didn't even remember existed. I did everything at my own pace, in my own way, without depending on anyone. And it was precisely at that moment that something unexpected happened. I didn't wait any longer. I put the phone away and stopped counting the days. I concentrated on my life, on my steps, on the time I had left. And it was in this silence, a calmer, more accepting silence, that I heard something different. The phone ringing. It was my eldest daughter. "Dad, how are you? What have you been doing lately?" I said simply. "I've been walking, reading a bit. I went fishing with a friend the other day." She was silent for a moment, then said, "That's nice. We were thinking of coming down this weekend. Is that okay?" And I smiled, not out of relief or victory, but because I understood that at that moment she wanted to be there. Not out of obligation, not out of pity. She came because she wanted to. A few days later, my son called. "Dad, I heard you're meeting the people from the market. Can we go with you sometime?" I looked at the phone like someone looking at something rare. They missed me. And that's when I realized a truth that no one had ever told me before. When we stop chasing, we give others the time and space to miss us. As long as I insisted, demanded attention, was always around. Without realizing it, I suffocated. Now in the distance, in the absence, affection has found space to flourish again. I understood that love is not lost, but it needs freedom to return. And when it comes back, it's more sincere, lighter, truer. Today, I no longer ask for attention, but when it comes, I receive it with gratitude, because I know it comes from the heart, not from obligation. And that, for me, is what counts. Over time, I've learned a lesson that, I confess, hasn't been easy to accept. My children's home is no longer my home. They have their own routines, their own commitments, their own families. And as much as a father's heart wants to be close, presence needs to come with respect, and not with imposition. Today I understand that visits must be arranged. Arriving unannounced, as I used to do, was more out of habit than necessity. But I realized that, for them, it became a burden, disorganization, and even discomfort. Asking for the key to the house or the password to the gate, as if it was still part of that routine. It wasn't affection, it was invasion. I didn't want to be a nuisance, of course not. But without realizing it, I was doing it. And today I see that interfering too much, hinting all the time, only wears down the relationship. In my day, parents were welcomed in any way at any time. But today the world is richer, more closed, and each family needs its own space. And that's fine. Respecting this doesn't diminish love. On the contrary, it strengthens it. I've learned that if they need me, they'll come to me. And when that happens, I'll be here with open arms, but without imposing myself, without wanting to lead their lives as if they were still children. They already have their own path. It's up to me to respect. And this respect builds something more valuable than any advice. It builds a light, unburdensome bond. An affection that doesn't weigh them down, that doesn't hold them back, but welcomes them when the time is right. Today, I no longer see myself as someone who needs to be there all the time. I see myself as a calm, firm harbor where they know they can dock when they need to, and that certainty gives me peace, because to love is also to know how to give space, and trusting that even if they're far away, the bonds remain firm. Grandchildren. Our grandchildren are pure joy. Just hearing that grandpa coming running towards me feels like time has gone back. My heart warms and my soul is filled with an affection that is unlike anything else. Whenever I can, I'm there for them. I play, I tell stories, I take them to the playground. But over time, I've understood something important. As much as I love them, I can't and shouldn't cancel myself out for them. At first, whenever my children asked, I said yes. I'd be with the children all day. I'd put aside my commitments, even my health. I thought, they work so hard and I can help. But I realized that this became a habit. Suddenly they started relying on me as if it were an obligation, no longer as a favor. And then something bothered me. I realized that I was overloading myself. I was exhausted. I had no time for myself, no energy to do my own thing, no space to rest. That's when I made a decision. I set limits. Tenderly but firmly. I explained that I would help, yes, but only as much as I could. That I also have my life, my time, my health, and all that matters. To my surprise, they understood, and they respected me. Because when you respect yourself, the other person learns to do the same. Today, I help when I can, and only when I can. I don't feel guilty about saying no. And when I'm with my grandchildren, I'm whole, I'm present, I'm happy, because I'm not sacrificing, I'm sharing. Looking after them is a blessing, but taking care of myself is necessary. Because if I'm not well, what's the point of being available? Now I know I can be a good grandfather without forgetting to be me. I've spent my whole life thinking about others, first my parents, then my wife, and finally my children. Every decision I've made, every effort, every extra hour of work, it's all been for them, and I would do it all again without hesitation. But after the children grow up and go on with their lives, there's time that didn't exist before. And at first, that time is scary. You ask yourself, what now? What do I do? It was then that I realized there was something I'd never done properly: live for myself. I started slowly. I started walking again early in the morning, when the sun is barely up and the world is still quiet. I met up with old friends from my youth, had coffee with them and had a good laugh, the kind that warms the chest. I took an old accordion out of the closet that I hadn't played for years, and with it, I rediscovered a piece of myself that had been forgotten. I went after things I always put off. That short trip, lunch at a restaurant I'd always wanted to visit, even buying something just because I felt like it, without thinking about whether it was necessary. And do you know what I discovered? That when you start taking care of yourself, life changes. Your head becomes lighter, your heart calmer. And curiously, our children start to look at us differently. They respect us more. They get closer. They feel safer when they see that we're doing well. Today I understand that living for oneself is not selfish. It's wisdom. It's not waiting for someone to give you permission to be happy. It's realizing that time is precious and that we deserve to enjoy it while we can. Now every day is mine. I do what I like, in my own time, in my own way. And so I discovered that there is still so much to live for. Even after everyone has gone their separate ways, I've spent most of my life looking forward, working, planning, dreaming of tomorrow. And when I wasn't doing that, I would look back remembering what had happened, what could have been different. But today I look at now, and I realize that this is where life happens. It's not in the past, which is never coming back, nor in the future, which no one is sure will come. Happiness, I've discovered, is in the little things. A hot coffee in the morning, the smell of wet earth after the rain, in birdsong at dawn, when everything is still silent. It's in sitting on a bench in the square without rushing, in watching the sunset without thinking about commitments, in exchanging 2 words with a stranger and feeling lighter for it. Even with the aches and pains of the body, with the limitations of age, there is still beauty in every day that dawns. I can still feel the wind on my face, the warmth of the sun, the taste of good food, the peace of a quiet night. And that is living. It's looking around and giving thanks, not for what's missing, but for what I still have. I no longer run after time. I walk with it. I no longer regret what I've lost. I celebrate what remains. Living in the present is a gift in itself. It means not putting off joy any longer, not waiting for special occasions. It's understanding that each simple day can be the best day of our lives, if we know how to look at it with different eyes. Today, happiness for me isn't noisy. It's silent, serene, and it's here, in the now. And I choose to live it, while I can. The other day I stopped in front of the mirror and stood there staring at my own face. I didn't rush or look away as I usually did. This time, I forced myself to really look. I saw a man who had walked with me all my life. The marks on my face, which used to bother me, began to tell stories. Every wrinkle a battle, every line in his eyes a moment of joy or pain. That wasn't just an aged face, it was the faithful portrait of a life lived with dedication, of someone who worked, who loved, who made mistakes, who got things right, but who never shirked responsibility. I touched my face calmly, and for the first time in a long time I felt proud to have come this far, of having faced everything I've faced, and that I was still standing. There, in front of the mirror, I made a promise. From now on, I'm going to value myself. I will no longer wait for others to recognize my effort, my value, my story. I do, and that's enough. I'm going to give myself the right to smile for myself, to give myself gifts for no reason, to say yes to what I want. I'm going to walk with my head held high, not out of vanity, but out of respect for everything I've lived through. Love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, no one will do it for you. Don't expect recognition from others. Recognize yourself. Today, when I look in the mirror, I see more than an aged face. I see a faithful companion who has never abandoned me. And so I say firmly, thank you. Thank you for everything we've been through together. Now let's live, in our own way. With peace, with joy, because we deserve it, and because there's still so much to live for. Over time, I've learned that it's not enough to be alive. You have to really live. And living well doesn't depend on money or applause. It depends on small choices made with care by ourselves. I want to share with you 7 simple steps that have helped me to live more lightly, more joyfully, more peacefully. Step 1. Take up a hobby that made you happy. In my case, I took up fishing again. It could be playing an instrument, tinkering, with plants, fixing things, any activity that connects you with who you really are. Step 2. Take that trip that has always remained on paper. It doesn't have to be far away or expensive. Sometimes a neighboring town, a quiet place, is enough to renew your spirit. Step 3. Buy something special just for you. Don't wait for a date or permission. You deserve it. A good book, a new shirt, a tool, something that gives you pleasure. Step 4. Catch up with a longtime friend. Call, arrange a coffee. Seeing someone who was part of your history warms the heart and brings back good memories. Step 5. Forgive someone. Free your heart. Forgiveness isn't a favor to the other person. It's a gift you give yourself. Letting go of the past makes the present lighter. Step 6. Enjoy a meal that makes you smile. No rush, no guilt. Eat what you like. Savoring life begins at the table. Step 7. When you wake up, say to yourself, I was born to be respected and loved. Today is the best day of my life. Starting the day with gratitude changes everything. These small steps have brought me a peace that I haven't felt for a long time. Try it. Life can be simple and very beautiful. Today I understand. You can't wait for the right time because it never comes. Life doesn't tell you when it's ending, it just passes. And many of us only realize this when our bodies no longer respond, when our minds get tired, when it's too late. So I say, to you sincerely, don't wait any longer. Live, travel, smile, do what you want. You don't need to ask permission. You don't need great reasons. It's your life. With your children, watch, listen, be there when you're called. But don't talk too much. Don't try to solve everything. They need to live their own lives, make their own mistakes. And you need to live in your own time, in your own way. The value of your life is not in the tasks you do for others, nor in how much you please or sacrifice. Your value comes from within, from the respect you have for yourself, from the love you cultivate for who you are. Look around you. Life is still pulsating, even on the quietest of days. Even with pain, with limitations, there is still beauty. There is still time. And as long as there is time, there is a chance to live better. I love my face. Every mark, every wrinkle, every strand of white hair. This face has seen it all. It has worked, cried, smiled, fought. And now, it's ready to be happy for real. Love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, no one will do it for you. Don't throw away the days you still have. Enjoy each one as if it were a gift, because that's exactly what it is. Live before it's too late. And when that time comes, look back and think, it was worth it. I lived. If this reflection made sense to you, enjoy the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to receive more stories and reflections like this one. That way, you won't miss out on any new content. Take care and see you next time.